Hi everyone, good morning, good evening, good afternoon from wherever you're joining in. This is Prithvi Raj, the Litmus Community Manager, the host for today. And I welcome you all for joining in to the and tuning in to the Chaos Engineering Meetup, which is hosted by the Litmus community every last Saturday of the month. And thanks again for tuning in on a Saturday. I mean, I know it's a weekend for everyone, and everyone would have loved to enjoy a little bit and take some time off. But I'm glad seeing you all here today on a weekend. So moving ahead, we'll just move to the agenda quickly. I'll just share the agenda with you all. Just give me a sec. So I hope you can see my screen. And as you can see, I mean, we'll be having 4 items today covered by one is Shomo. Obviously, Shomo is a Litmus community member, core contributor. He'll be talking about the IPv6 updates and just take us through the release notes, release items, what was there, and what exactly it brings to the table with the latest updates. Second up, Sign Mondal, another Litmus community contributor, will be talking about the Litmus UI updates. Third up, we'll have Saranya Jaina, who will be talking about the upgrade agent updates for Litmus Chaos. And lastly, we'll have Udit, who'll just cover the dashboard updates. And eventually, lastly, we'll have an open floor discussion. You can ask your questions. You can share something about your work on chaos engineering or what exactly you're looking for from the community. So I hope you have a great chaos engineering meetup ahead. But before we move ahead, I see a few participants have joined in and a few of them are new to the community. So I think I would just allow them to introduce themselves a little bit. Who have joined in new. I see Divyang and I see Pulak, I see Meha Bhalodia. So these are the new folks who have joined in any of our meetups. So perhaps you can just unmute yourselves one by one and just give us a quick introduction, and then we can get started with the agenda in hand. So perhaps Divyang, you can go first.
Okay. Hi guys, myself Divya. I'm a technical architect at Cognizant, and mainly I work on cloud technologies. I'm very much interested in this chaos engineering to make it my cloud applications more reliable and resilient. So I'm very excited to be part of this meetup. Thank you guys.
Awesome. Thanks, Divyang. I hope you have a great journey with the Litmus Chaos community. Next up, Meha.
Am I audible?
Yeah, you're audible.
Yes, hello everyone. Myself Meha Bhalodia. Currently, I am a student pursuing my bachelor's in computer engineering, a third year. And yes, currently I am involved in a shadow program, that is Kubernetes 1.23 release team. And yes, I am a member of SIGDocs, and I'm much curious to learn this chaos engineering.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Meha. I hope you learn a lot from the community and are able to contribute more. Last up, Pulak. Perhaps you can just unmute yourself and introduce to the community. I guess he can't hear us, so perhaps we'll move ahead. So let's get started with the agenda in hand without wasting any time. I would allow Shomo to share his screen and take us through the IPv6 updates and what's new. So Shomo, you can share your screen now.
Yep. Thanks a lot, Prithvi. I'll just share my screen. Let me know when the screen is going to be.
Yes, your screen is visible.
Awesome. Great. We recently had our Litmus 2.3 release. I'll not go through all the items in the list because some of them are not that important, but I'll just cover the very crucial improvements and bug fixes that we have gone through in this release. So first of all, we have added support for IPv6 inside network experiments and other Litmus components, which will basically enable the users to run Litmus portal setup and the experiments on IPv6 or dual setups. So this is a very important update, like an improvement feature that we have included, because so we have found that many users are actually using Litmus Portal, or at least were trying to use Litmus Portal in complete IPv6 setups, which previously was an issue. We had some problems with our database, which would not work in the IPv6 setup. But right now we have updated all our components, so you should be able to run the complete Litmus setup and the experiments all together in an IPv6 or dual stack setup. Next up, we have some subscriber fixes in our agent side, which basically will make upgrades more smooth. So we have been working on an upgrade agent for quite some time right now for the Litmus Portal. So basically, if you want to upgrade from, let's say, an older version to a newer version, you can basically use this upgrade agent that we have built to streamline the whole process. You would have to uninstall the whole old setup and reinstall all the newer components. So right now we have updated that and we have made some improvements there to make it more smooth. Then we have a improved workflow tune section in the UI, which provides better control and configurability for the workflows. So users can now easily configure stuff and create more complex UIs, workflows, sorry. Yeah, and apart from that, we had some bug fixes on the portal side, in the front end and GraphQL server. Also, we had on the core side, we had some bug fixes and upgrades to packages like Puma. We also did some RBAC permissions, updated our RBAC permissions, and fixed some Kyverno pod security policies. So in the upcoming releases, we will have some other important updates too. So currently, we found that some users are trying to use Litmus Portal with their self-signed certificates. So in the next upcoming release, we'll be supporting the ability to disable or skip SSL verification for self-signed certificates in the portal components. And in the following releases, we'll allow adding custom self-signed certificates to the component. So you can use secured connection even on the self-signed certificates. Yeah, so that was mostly it from my side, Prithvi. Over to you.
Thanks a lot, Shoma. I think Shomo's update was more about the updates that have come in and how IPv6 has come up as an update for the Litmus Kiosk users. But without wasting any time, I think I'll allow Sayan to take over. Sayan will be talking about the latest updates to the Litmus UI. So Sayan, the floor is all yours.
Thanks, Rudy. Hi, everyone. My name is Shayan. I am a contributor in this Litmus Kiosk project. And today I'll be talking about Litmus UI from a developer's point of view, how as a developer you can contribute, and also how these themes that are made using Litmus UI wrapper or the component library, how we can also extract it and use it in our own personal projects as well. So these are the two topics that I'll be touching on. Let me probably share my screen and get started. So first of all, I would like to show this around. Like, as you already know, Litmus UI is like our own component library that we use for any components as well as sub-level smaller components that we create. Just a minute, just give me 1 minute. Sorry about that. Yeah, so as I was saying, I'll be talking about this, like we use Litmus UI for all the components that Litmus is wrapped upon. So this is how it looks like in the form of a storybook. So we have this UI library wrapped inside Storybook. So all our components that we make using Litmus UI can be seen via Storybook. And I'll be using this Storybook as an example of, I guess this is not working. Okay, I think it's Netlify down for some reason. Let me just do a yarn run Delphi. That should work. So all the components, all the developers' perspective of this component that I talk about, I'll be showing an example on the storybook so that it's easier to map to what exactly is happening. So to start with, this is like the theme provider that we have for Litmus UI. And it's basically a material UI theme provider that we have constructed our own theme provider on top of it. So it's called Litmus theme provider. And by default, it takes the Litmus portal theme, which is this theme. And you can also create this theme, but it should adhere to these certain practices. Like it should have primary, secondary, graph, and those interfaces that we have created, interfaces and types, which you can also see in the base.ts. So these are like the interfaces of or the palettes that we have created and that we want users to adhere to. So if you have your own theme, then basically you would need to sort of adhere with this practice. You cannot add theme or palettes that are not according to these interfaces. But this is the theme that we use, which is exactly the same as the interfaces we have built. And if you want to create your own theme, basically you can copy this entire palette and you can change the primary colors, secondary colors, or graph colors. And then you can, I guess, yeah, this works now. And then you can just pass on that theme in this provider, and that should take over your entire project. So then you can probably use buttons or all these core or lab components that we have, drawer, icon, input. And those components will sort of have the theme that you provided. If you haven't provided any theme, then it will by default roll back to the Litmus portal theme. So that's the idea behind the theme provider that Litmus UI uses. And if I just go over to this particular section, this is the Litmus code, the Litmus app.tsx code, where we have, which is like the root of the entire project for React. And if you scroll down, we can see that we have wrapped this entire project in Litmus theme provider. And like I said, that if you don't provide any theme, it will default to Litmus themes. So this is what it defaults to. But if you have your own theme, you just need to pass on a theme equal to, in brackets, your own custom theme palette options, and that will be reflected on you. So this is what I was just explaining. Okay, so let's move on to one of the components. So let's take this component as an example, button. So I'll be giving you an example of button fill in this case. So how we create these themes are basically if we have multiple buttons which are sharing one single component. Let's say we have button group, we have button outline, we have button filled, and then we have text button. So in this case, we create a base file, and base file is basically what we want to omit from the components that are already present in Material UI. Just give me one more minute. Sorry. Sorry about that. A lot of people in my house. So yeah, so the base theme is basically base.ts file is basically our main parent file. And in here, we define configuration that will apply to all the different subcomponents, in this case, button fill, button group, button outline. So what we wanted to do was we wanted to omit certain properties that are extracted from Material UI, like variant. We want to provide our own variant. We want to provide our own color, our own sizes, our own tab indexes. And that is why we have omitted this globally from all the button components. And this is an example. So let's say button filled. If I go to button filled component, we can see at the top that we have our own variant. So type variant, we wanted to give a default variant, error variant, success variant. And if nothing is given, then it will default to the default variant. So that's how we wanted to build components inside of Litmus UI. And also the sizes, like we have already omitted that in the base file. So we wanted to create our own sizes. So these are like large, medium, small, etc. And on top of this, we import buttons from Material UI, and then we sort of add our own logic into it. We add our own classes, we add our own variants, and then we style it. And that's how we create our own components, which are extracted from Material UI components. So an example of this is, let's say I go to button component in here, and I go to button filled. So you can see all the three variants are present: default, error, and success. Now I'll also talk about this section, which is at the bottom, which is like the argument or the control section, that you can give any control or any changes and you can see them live. So let's say I want to change the variant to error, it'll be reflected in real time. If I change it to success, it'll be also reflected in real time. And this button, exactly how you look at it, we can just extract it out and use it in our own personal project. So coming back to the stories, and these are like these things that you see right here. And also if I go to docs, there's like a detailed version of all these things that you can create from Storybook. So if I come over here, you can see that this button fill button allows user to take action, and all this you can see at the top button allows user to take action. So these docs are already formed by Storybook. We just have to write them as such, basically in the form of markdown, so that users can see that particular doc. And at the top, which this meta tag that you see, meta tag is nothing but this control dialog that you see at the bottom. So there are 3 variants, there are 3 sizes, and all of them are in the form of a radio button. So if I just go here, you can see that in the variants control, I have type of radio, which is the radio button, and I have 3 options: default, error, success, and then the same is type radio option, large, medium, small. So these are the 3 options, that 2 radio button options that you see. So this is how we give users the control to modify, mix and match, and select the kind of variants and like basically options to play around with the component, so that they can find and figure out what they're looking for, and then they can extract this entire chunk and use it in their project. So it'll be different for different projects too. If I just remove this particular radio button, then this size would be removed. So it's basically how you would like to give the users, or give the people who are looking into the component, options to modify and play around with, so that they can extract the perfect combination that they want to use in their project. So if I come over to modal, for example, let's say, we can see a different kind of control. So there is like a disable escape key, or disable backdrop, or a width of the modal, height of the modal. You can give a certain string in, let's say, pixels, and then you can adjust the height and width and play around with it in different combinations, and then you can take out the perfect one that you deem fit. So that is how we are structuring the meta tag. So let's say you, in this case, create a component, how you would go about it. So you basically, if it's a shared component, let's say in this case, you are creating a component, parent component, which has multiple child components like this one button, then you would need to create a base class, and you would need to omit certain properties that you do not want to inherit from Material UI. And then once you've omitted them, once you've created the parent wrapper, you can go about creating a component name.tsx file. And in here, you would basically write the styling and do the development of the button. And once you're done with it, you can just basically go over to the stories.mdx markdown, and then you just create a meta tag. And once you have created a meta tag, you just pass on the component like so. You make sure also to give a proper title so that it's indented properly. Core button, button filled in this case, which is like core, then button filled. And once you have indented it perfectly, once you have added the component, then you can create the arc tables based on however you wish, however you want to give the audience the control. And this is optional, the markdown document, but we highly recommend you do so, because it gives the users much more clarity about what the button is, what variants it offers, what kind of other variants the button has. In this case, let's say I have a default variant, and all the options, all the components that you have created can be easily wrapped in this tag called canvas, which is also something Storybook provides. So once you wrap the thing in canvas, you just add the story with a name. In this case, I wanted to show the default variant, so I gave it a name of default, and then I just appended the components. It's as simple as that. So if I just go over to the doc section once again, you can see default variant, and I just appended this component, right, button field. But in this document, it will show up as such because of Storybook, and you can of course see the code as well. And the other variants in this case, let's say if I go back to default, this one, I can see other variants. I have 2 more variants, which are error and success. So that's how we can give a detailed description of what parameters the components is using. And also this one is auto-generated. You don't even have to write it. There's this component called args table, which is also provided with Storybook. You just give the args table off and the name of the component, and it automatically creates this table. So if you want to create a full-fledged component and contribute to Litmus UI, these are the steps that you need to follow. You need to create your component.tsx file, a storybook of that particular component, so that users can see it. Docs is optional, but we highly recommend you do so. and then you just give the args table so that people get the full access to all the APIs, all the parameters that the component provides. And that will be all. And we use rollup as well behind the hood to build our components. And once we build it, we just go to our package.json, update the version, and then we do a patch release. So one more thing that I missed out is we also do testing of each of our components that we build. And for testing, we use Jest, and this is our Jest config. So let's take an example of the button component again, and I'll show you one of the tests that we have. So we keep our test in this underscore test file. And this is one of the like a minor test that we wanted to do in case of button clicks. So when we created this button, we wanted to check if it registers the number of clicks that our user is doing. So in this case, we are basically using a mock callback, which is done by Jest functions. So we are using a mock callback of Jest. We are passing that callback as an on-click parameter in the button field. So each time a mock click or a mock callback is being triggered on the button component, we are registering a counter. So in this case, we are basically seeing if our mock call length of the mock call is equal to 1, which means basically our button has been clicked once. Then we are checking if it's equal to 1, that means it has been clicked once, it's true. And if we are registering 2 more clicks, if the final version of the click is 3, which means it was clicked once before, and then we click 2 more times, so it should be equal to 3, then the total number of click should be 3. So this is like a basic Jest function to check if our button is being clicked and is working fine or not. And this is how we have built one of the tests for this particular button component. And we are using React testing library to do events like fire event and render. So a fire event is basically helping us to simulate that click, basically. So this is how we are creating mini unit tests for each component that we write. And we highly also recommend that when you submit a PR with a certain component, you also write a basic or minimum unit test coverage for that component as well. So that is all from my side. And once you are done with the development, feel free to do a yarn run dev, which actually brings up the storybook locally. In this case, I'm also running it locally. And then every change you make, you can basically see it in the canvas object. So that was all from my side. I hope the contribution part was clear. If any questions, I'll love to take them.
Thanks a lot, Sayan. I think there were a couple of questions, but they have been answered in chat itself. So thanks a lot to the community for answering them. Without wasting any time, I'll allow Saranya to take it forward. Saranya, perhaps you can start sharing your screen and talk about the upgrade agent updates.
Yeah, thank you, Prithvi. So, hey everyone, this is Saranya, and I'm one of the contributors to Litmus Chaos. So, I'll be talking about the upgrade agent feature, and we'll be giving a short demo of how you can upgrade your agent plane and match it with your current version of the control. The control plane. So, let me share my screen. I hope it's visible. So so the agent upgrade becomes mandatory, like it becomes necessary in case there has been a major release in the control plane, and it becomes kind of incompatible. So you need to upgrade it. So as Shomo mentioned earlier, we had to uninstall and make a fresh install to upgrade our agent plane. So so I'll just show you how we can just upgrade the agent plane without doing uninstall these things. So in my setup, I'm using Minikube, and let me show you the version of control plane and agent plane I'm using. Yeah, so this is the agent here you can see the version of agent I'm using is 2.2.0. And let me show you the version I'm using in the control plane. Yeah, so here you can see the version is 2.3.0. So here as like the version of agent is 2.2.0 and version of control plane is 2.3.0. So as there's a like kind of mismatch. So here you can also see that the chaos agent is non-active. And if I do a watch of pods, yeah, so the subscriber pod here is in crash loop backoff, and if I log the same, here, yeah, so you can see there's a cluster version mismatch, and it's, as I've already mentioned, the upgrade becomes necessary in case of major releases. So it requires 2.3.x and we have 2.2.0. So I'll just go ahead and upgrade the agent plane. So you can do it using the UI. So here, yeah, so if there is an upgrade available for the agent pin, this button becomes like available to you, and you can just click on it and copy this litmus-ctl command. So I'll just explain it. So here, since I have logged in as admin and I have a project, I can just like you will require the cluster ID and the project ID of the same, and you can just copy this command and execute it. So currently I'm using litmus-ctl version 0.5.0, and yeah, I've already like configured my account. So I'll just execute the same command. Yeah, so what it basically does is it like fetches the latest agent manifest and applies it. And if we get back to the pods, yeah, so here actually the subscriber pod is still using the older deployment image. So I'll just restart the pod. It's in terminating state. Okay, so yeah, the subscriber is running again, and if we go here, yeah, the subscriber is active. And since the version of agent plane and the control plane are matching, so upgrade won't be available right now. So you can upgrade it by just copying the command from the UI, or you can just yeah, you can just execute the same, and the agent plane will be upgraded. So yeah, that's all. And yeah, if you have any questions, you can just ask.
Thanks a lot, Saranya, for providing us updates on the upgrade agent part. I hope it might have clarified a lot of doubts for folks who have been already using Litmus. And last up, I think we have Udit, who'll be talking about the updates on the dashboard, E2E dashboard, which have also been worked by a couple of folks who have joined in, Aman and Dhananjay. So that perhaps you can unmute yourself and share your screen.
Hi, Prithvi. Hi, everyone. I am Udit, one of the maintainers of Litmus. So I will be sharing my screen and giving you some updates on E2E dashboards. As you are aware, from last releases, we have seen from last meetups, we have seen some updates on E2E dashboards. Now, if we have a first stable version of it available, and it is like we having a couple of more supports added, like the dark mode support, which was planned to be added in the previous week. And now we have one more big enhancement. So as I mentioned, these are the different cards which are available, and inside a card, there will be individual pipelines which will be testing a couple of experiments. So those who are not aware of this dashboard, what it does, just to give a very brief overview, it is just to test our experiments. Those experiments are available on Hub, and we are running some test cases for those experiments. And these test cases are conducted on a specific pipelines. Like there is a AWS pipeline to test all the AWS experiments, and similarly other ones for GCP, for Azure, and for normal generic suite of experiment which contain node level, pod level, and component experiments, component level. So coming back to the AWS experiment where we entered right now, there is a pipeline ID. When you click on it, it will give you the steps. There are the two jobs which is running. So right now this pipeline contains EC2 test and EBS loss. If you are aware, these two tests are there in Hub. Litmus supports that. And now here are the logs. These are the new enhancements. You can see that these particular step of the job contains the test cases. So earlier we don't have log. We need to go back to the pipeline and check it from the GitHub itself. But this is the new enhancement which was added by Aman right away, like this week. And these will help you to know where the experiment fails. So let's suppose we are running this experiment on a different test cases, like on a serial mode, also on a parallel mode. Let's suppose we have some bug introduced in any of one mode, like in a parallel mode. We can this test will fail, this step will fail, and we can easily debug it from this logs, like at what step it is failing, and similarly we can fix it from the code side. One more thing which will help in this would be the commit IDs. Commit IDs will be the latest commit from the repository. So 1 day ago, the latest commit was this, and so 7 hours ago, latest commit was this, and some 5 days ago, latest commit was this. So any bug introduced in between, we can just figure out from the GitHub, like which commit in between these, which commit was there, which is bringing that bug, and we can fix that. And so this is the main enhancement, and we have now first version of Litmus, like dashboard available. It is open for the community. Anyone can come and see the stabilities of the experiments, and we can also contribute in adding new test cases. So these are like some of the test cases which we have already covered for general test cases. If you go to component pipeline, this covers most of the test cases belonging to the execution part, which generally we tune from Chaos Engine or Chaos Experiment or operator, or as part of result, validating result. So all these test cases are, some of them are like added, like we are different test cases like service account, job cleanup policy, engine state annotation, check app information. These are all engine spec. If you are aware with engine spec of Litmus, Chaos Engine spec. In experiments, we have some test cases to test the experiment image and some target pod ENVs like that, and other ENVs also. An operator also, we have some reconcile check, admin mode check. So you know, like Litmus works on admin mode as well, and whether the operator is reconciling well or it's having some issues in reconciling. So we had a couple of tests inside it, which will tell us that, okay, that it is working fine or it is having some issues inside it. We also have some negative test, which will test for the false scenarios. And we need to check like all these false scenarios are working fine or not. So these are also embedded on the same jobs. It's not like separated. We also have a result validation, which will actually check all the result spec, the verdict status in Chaos result. You must have seen, you get to know from there only, like if the experiment is passed or what is the run history. Run history means when experiment is passed, whether the pass count is increasing or not, all those kind of checks. So this is just to give confidence on the current experiment. They are working fine for before every release, and even on every commits, as it is a daily, nightly also, and it's nightly and one scheduled one. Scheduled one is nightly and one manual one, which we run for before the releases. So I think that's all. I would like to wrap up with this. If you have any questions, you can just go through GitHub, Litmus Chaos GitHub, I would say GitHub pages, and in Litmus E2, it will be inside dashboards. You can check it out. There is one more enhancement coming in, that is from the backend side for taking up the queries, HTTP. We are deploying it and on our own server, and that's it. And then we have the final output of this dashboard available. So I think that's all. Aman is here. If you want to add something, he was the one who was working with us on this. So if you want to add something, Aman, you are welcome. Thanks, everyone. And you guys can also put your questions in the chat or can unmute and ask.
So did we have a question here by RB? He asks, we have a K8s cluster with Istio injection enabled to all namespaces. Could you please guide us on setting up Litmus Kiosk with this setup?
All right, let me check. Yeah, I think there are some docs. So I will just refer you, RB. There are some docs on Litmus Kiosk that will help you to do this, like ETOs enable and disable. So when you're working, so using annotations, okay, I will just share here only. You can put your own enable and disable annotations for ETOs, right? So for that, you need to have annotations added to your runner pod and experiment pod. That you can do from inside a concept. You will see how to add that. So inside the concept, there are all chaos engine experiment. This is experiment docs, and here all the experiment related things are mentioned. And when you will come to this chaos engine, so you will check runner specifications, experiment specifications. Here you can check the annotations, how you can add a runner annotation. This is the way you can add. So in chaos engine, you need to add this couple of lines, these 3-4 lines. So when you add this, it will take the, you need to add your own annotations or ETOs enable or disable parameter. You need to pass it here. So with this, the runner pod will comes up with the ETOs enable or disable, whatever you have provided. And then the similar with the experiment specifications also. For experiment also, this is one of the examples annotations. This is one of the example experiment annotation you need to add. So you can take a look, give a read of this. If it helps you, just let us know. If not, you can please use the Slack channel and can ask. There will help you there. If you still face some issues after this, RB.
Thanks a lot, Udit, for those updates. And with this, I think we have somewhere come around the end of the agenda items we have for today. But I think I'll just, we have some time in hand, so I'll just open the floor for some questions and introductions, and if there is anything to discuss. So perhaps folks who have any other questions can unmute themselves and ask them, or ask them in chat, so that the contributors, maintainers, and community members can answer them. So folks, feel free to. And lastly, I've shared the link to joining the Slack community once again. So folks who are not part of it already can just go ahead and join the Slack channel to stay in touch and ask questions post this meetup. So does anyone have any questions or anything to share?
Hi everyone, am I audible?
Yes, RB, you are.
Yeah, I'm Raghav. I work for Thomson Reuters as a lead DevOps engineer. So we have recently started using Kubernetes, and we are running multiple workloads, production workloads on Kubernetes, especially on AWS EKS. So we wanted to have some game days planned to test the resiliency of our apps. So initially we thought of using Litmus Chaos, but we have very tight secured EKS provided to us, which has Istio injection enabled. So I couldn't get the stack up and running in one of the namespaces which I've tried. So do you have any recommendations for these additional add-ons with security and stuff being present on the Kubernetes?
Hi, RB. So as I mentioned, like to run the pods on the ETOs enabled environment, you need to add annotations, right, for the resources you're creating there. So you need to create the annotations for all the Litmus components. Some of the components which comes, some of them are predefined, that is the infra components, and which comes as part of Litmus installation. You can add there manually on the installation script, or You can check it out on Helm, whether we add that or not. I'm not very sure on Helm. So what you can do, you can manually add the annotations that will first launch your pods with ETOS enabled. And then when running the workflows, some of the pod comes at runtime, like experiment pods, runner pod, helper pod. So the main thing is adding the annotations for these pods. So I referred you few documentation that tells you how you can add annotation to these pods. And there is some ETOS slash some words, and then it's like an enable. So that will enable the your pod to be running on ETOS. So you can add these annotations for using the same spec inside the workflow, our own workflow. I will probably share you some of the content after this. If you can ping us on the Slack channel, I think that would be more helpful. We can discuss there. And I will be sharing some of the example workflow, which is like working on ETOS enable environment. So you will get a more idea from it. You can just closely look to the Chaos Engine spec and annotations adding on the workflow side.
Sure. Thank you, Udit.
Thanks, Arvi.
Thanks a lot, Arvi. Perhaps you can also join the Litmus Chaos Slack channel, as I had shared the details, so that you can just get some answers, or you can ask further questions as well. So other than that, do we have any questions or doubts or something to discuss? So I see none. So before we wind up, I think there were a couple of folks who joined in late and who did not introduce themselves. So we have Bhargav, Krishna, and Girish. Perhaps you can just introduce yourself and tell us that how you are looking at chaos engineering, so that we can just get to know what the community is looking at, and then we can wind up.
Hi, this is Bhargav Krishna, and I am from India, second year sophomore. I am very new to this Kubernetes community, and I was like 2 weeks old. I was exploring all these things, and very glad to be in a community and very supporting community, learning to know new things. And this is how I am doing in this 2 weeks. And I found this meetup and I thought to join this meeting and found this conversation very good. Yeah.
Awesome, Bhargav. We look forward to your contributions to the community. Last up, Girish.
Yeah, hi everyone. This is Girish here. I would say I'm a meetup hopper, and I've been attending some of Litmus Chaos meetups earlier too. So I find it interesting to attend different meetups and get to know what are the latest trends in the tech space and how people are solving new problems coming up. So that's probably primary reason why I'm here. So definitely when it comes to chaos and chaos engineering, Litmus is one of the go-to solutions. So just following through.
Thanks a lot, Girish. I think those were really warm words for the community, and I hope you attend more meetups and get to learn more, and further just keep being part of the community and let us know how we can help further. So I think with this, we have come to the end of this Chaos Engineering meetup. I hope it was a great session for you all, and there were a lot of learnings. Taken aback about the updates that have come up and what's new in the community, how Litmus is growing. And other than that, feel free to ask your questions in the Slack community itself. One last announcement I would like to make is that on the January 27th and 28th, the Litmus community is being part of Chaos Carnival, which is a global conference on chaos engineering. So all those who are interested to be a part of the conference, there are amazing talks, a couple of panel discussions, a lot of things going around the chaos engineering community itself being covered there. So I've shared the link in chat with you all. So all those folks who are interested to be part of Chaos Carnival as attendees, or if you want to submit a talk, there's still some time. So feel free to and be a part of Chaos Carnival for your chaos engineering journey. So thanks a lot, folks, for joining in on a Saturday. I hope you have a great rest of the weekend, and see you soon next month again, last Saturday of the month. We come back with the Chaos Engineering meetup. So stay tuned and be a part of the community. Thanks, everyone. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.